What's up, YouTube? What's up, man? Hope everybody had a good one today. Man, I definitely had a real good productive day. Man, but I gotta touch on this Kwame Brown situation. Man, and this one has stirred up the NBA. This one has stirred up ESPN. And this one he has ruffled a bunch of feathers with the powers that be around the league right now. All right, now for those that don't know, Kwame Brown was he was the number one draft pick in the 2000 NBA draft. And for a lot of naysayers, they considered his career to be a bust. You know what I'm saying? And for a lot of people over the years they ran this man's name in the mud. They drug his name through the mud. Any kind of joking you can think of, they've done it. Any kind of ragging on this brother you can think of, Kwame Brown's name has come up in those type of conversations. They've done it. From the Stephen A. Smiths to every sports show you can think of, they have ran this man's name in the ground. Anytime the NBA draft comes up, he always comes to, we want to hope these players don't turn out to be the next Kwame Brown. That's how this man is always introduced as one of the biggest busts in NBA history. And he's never, and I repeat, he's never defended himself. He's never come out and spoken up against anything nobody had to say against him. He's always taken it on the chin, kept it moving. And you know what I mean? Even through his NBA years, he just kept it going. And man, the brother wound up playing 13 years in the NBA. Successful career. You know what I mean? To play 13 years in the NBA, that's a successful career. Some people don't have 13 years and can't work 13 years on a job in the normal world. So for him to be labeled a bust is total bullshit. Did he live up to what the quote-unquote number one first pick in the draft quota should be? No, he did not. But he actually broke down his story, and he's letting these guys have it. He's telling his story. Some of the reasons why he had his failures and his ups and downs. Now, how all of this started. Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, they have a podcast called All the Smoke. And on this podcast, they have former NBA players, and, you know, they sit there and come on, they smoke their weed, and they talk about players' NBA careers. So they had Gilbert Arenas on there. And Gilbert Arenas was one of Kwame Brown's former players. So his name comes up. And they get to bragging on this brother. I mean, and it went below the belt. They was taking sort of like personal shots at this brother. So, you know, Kwame took personal. He took it personal for reasons. He was teammates at one time with Steven Jackson, and he was teammates at one time with Matt Barnes, and he was teammates at one time with Gilbert Arenas. So he feels as though with three guys that know him, he thinking that it would have been a little different respect factor there. You can have an opinion on his skill set on the court, but it was kind of it was some personal low blow shots being taken there. So finally, this brother has spoken out, and he's going to ham, man. He's hitting them with some truth that, man, now they're in retreat mode, and he's coming off too aggressive for him, you know, which is bullshit to me. Because for one reason, Steven Jackson, he walks around, he's one of the so-called dudes that consider himself like a a thug in the NBA. You know, he was a well-known on the internet. He was well-known and publicized as being a Blood. He's out of Fort Worth, Texas. He's known as being an ex-Blood member. You know, his biggest NBA claim to fame is running up in the bleachers with Ron Artest, whooping some fans' ass. So he's considered one of the bad boys of the league. So don't get all tender ass now that this brother's coming out swinging, coming back, because he's been quiet for 20 years, man. He's taken all the hits, all the low shots that everybody's thrown at him. And he never, you know what I mean, he never comes out with nothing, you know what I mean? He always just takes it on the chin. Now all of a sudden, everybody's in their feelings. So he actually breaks it down, and I'm a big NBA dude. And I followed this dude. I followed the NBA real heavy when this dude was out. He was drafted by the Washington Wizards, which at the time was ran by Michael Jordan. And he breaks it down. He's telling them, everybody always has an opinion on how my career went, what went wrong in my career, but nobody comes and talks to me. Everybody speaks for me. Nobody comes and asks me no fucking questions. Everybody just takes the assumption of they knew what I was going through. They knew what I was thinking, but nobody came and asked me shit. So he actually broke it down. When he was drafted, and anybody that know Michael Jordan was a great, I repeat, great. He's the GOAT. Mike was the greatest NBA player to ever strap up a pair of gym shoes. He's the best of all time. But when it comes to working the front office / owning NBA team and being an executive in the NBA, Mike has done some of the most disastrous jobs that the NBA can recall, that I can remember. So what Kwame was explaining was, when he was drafted, he was not supposed to even stay on the Wizards. Michael Jordan drafted Kwame Brown to trade him to the Chicago Bulls for Elton Brand and Tyson Chandler. Nobody ever knew this. So he was sitting by waiting his turn to be traded, but Bill Poland, I believe it's Poland. I could have had the owner of the Wizards' name wrong. It's one of the Poland brothers. He vetoed the trade because Washington had already did too many trades. So he wouldn't let Jordan trade him. So in the midst of this, Jordan was beating this kid down, man. Jordan was ragging on this kid. He was landing into this kid. And you got to remember, this was a kid 17 years old, fresh out of high school, man. Jordan was a 39-year-old grown man, Hall of Famer, known as the greatest player of all times, who had a mentality of, I'm going to break everybody's will. So he didn't get his kid a break. So Jordan put a stigma on this kid that everybody attached to. By Jordan saying certain things about this brother, nobody's going to dispute anything Michael Jordan said. So he got a label attached to him early on in his career, put on by Michael Jordan, and that followed him throughout his entire career. And so, you know what I mean? He turned into did he live up to the expectations of a #1 draft pick? No, he did not. But what people don't understand is talent is one thing, but it also goes to the situations that you go to when you're drafted in the NFL or the NBA. If you go to the wrong situation and the team doesn't play around your strengths and doesn't put you in the positions to win, you can become a bust, no matter how talented you was in high school. no matter how talented you was in college. This the part people fail to realize. Everybody's not a LeBron James. Everybody's not going to have his natural just dog in them. Everybody's not built that way. Those are generational type players. They come once in every 2-3 generations. They're not normal. So they beat this brother down over a 13-year career. And over the last up to 20 years up to now, this man has not said nothing. He has just taken it on the chin, and now he's coming back fighting, coming back swinging. And the part they don't like, he's played with these dudes, so he know they twerks. He know the bullshit that they do. Like Steven Jackson, for instance. He like, Steven, how you talking crazy about me when, for starters, you was a journeyman anyway. You wasn't nothing but a bench rider. You got a ring with the San Antonio Spurs, riding Tim Duncan's back, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker's back. That's how you got a ring. You was no partaking in that. You had nothing to do with that ring. You was a journeyman. Then you tripped and got one good contract in your career, but nothing. Your stats ain't shit. So stop walking around like you some kind of Hall of Famer, like you have a say on how good this person or the next person should or shouldn't have been, when your career was just average at best, because you wanted to be a hood nigga. You had Steven Jackson's skills was good, but he always wanted to try to prove to be he was still down. He was a hood nigga. So his career ain't even reached where he could have possibly went, because he was a dumb nigga. So and Kwame opens him up, bro. All you did was party, hit strip joints, and buy pussy. Excuse my language. He kept it a bang. And not Steven Jackson in his feelings. He break Matt Barnes down. Like, bro, you got words to say about another grown man, and you a half-breed that's fighting with you got identity issues. Because your one parent is white, your one parent is black. So you always tried to play this, you was too light. So you always had to try to play this extra tough image because you was too light-skinned. But you tried to use your white side when it was time to get your ass up out of shit. And then you'd have lost your wife to another grown man, mind your teammate, Derrick Fisher. You should be the last person to have something to say about another grown man. So y'all very opinionated about a man who been minding his own business, taking care of his family, taking care of his kids. This brother made $67 million in his career. At 17 years old, he took his mother out of the projects. He was a food stamp kid. He was a WIC program kid. He was one of those free lunch program kids, and worked his way up to the #1 draft pick in the NBA. What part of failures y'all talking about, man? Y'all need to be telling this brother's story, man. That brother's story need to be told more than a lot of these brothers' stories, so because a lot of these kids can actually identify more with Kwame Brown than a lot of these other dudes that y'all praising around here. That's the problem with our people. We uplift the wrong ones, and we degrade the ones we should be uplifting, man. I think that brother's story need to be told. He one of 8 kids. His older brothers they chose the drug dealer route, and they got locked up early on. He chose to go get a job, put his head down, work out, and stick to basketball, and worked his way up to the #1 pick in the NBA draft. His brother said he didn't even have tennis shoes to play in, man. To play basketball in. He couldn't afford gym shoes to play the game of basketball in. This the story, and nobody ever heard this man's story, man. But everybody always had something to say about this brother. Now that he coming back swinging, now everybody in defense mode. And what's the young lady on ESPN, Jamila Hill. She comes out and she makes a statement. All weekend, Kwame Brown has been coming out violent. Lady, for starters, you jumped your ass in some man conversations that you had no business even having your nose in. You had no business putting your nose in the middle of these men dispute. You had no business putting your nose in the middle of these men conversation. And you put you wasn't being a journalist. You put personal shots in there. You put shots in there. I hope he don't get a charge talking about my mother. He been violent. What the fuck do you mean violent? Because he got behind the camera and defended himself with words. His kids wasn't around. His wife wasn't around. He was either sitting in his truck by himself or in his garage, not around his kids. What violent? That's the narrative they push when black men stand up for themselves with meaning behind it, with force behind it, saying something and letting you know that they mean what they say. You push the narrative that it was violent. He did nothing violent. All he did was speak up for himself. Y'all been bashing this man for 20 years, and he never said a word. Now that he's had enough, and he decided to speak up for himself, y'all put out a false narrative talking about this brother, talking about some violence, when you already know certain people in America would take that and run with it. Stephen A. Smith, how he jumps at your ass. You'd have made an entire career of bashing young black men. And he was one of them. Your entire career, they got snippets of Stephen A. Smith, of total Kwame Brown, snippets of him just bashing his brother. You became a millionaire on bashing men on what you call failures. And this man had an illustrious career. He made $67 million. He was able to set his entire family up. This brother has land on top of land on top of land. He's just not one of the types that's sitting out here flashing all kind of jewelry, all kind of sports cars and shit. He got a business. He bought properties. He bought land. Now he's doing a man's man type of things. But these the brothers you turn your nose up at and look at as a failure because he didn't blow his money. You got these documentaries about NBA players who make all this money and go broke. And he made this money and didn't go broke. So how the fuck is he considered a bust and a failure? We need to really consciously start checking these people on what they gonna continue to produce and put in front of us as what we consider failures as black men. That brother ain't a failure. Nothing about that brother's a failure. And I take offense to these brothers pushing the narrative that he is a failure. And we need to speak up for these brothers that's out here that's doing the right thing. That's why I made this video, because the brother's doing the right thing. He not out here doing bullshit. He ain't broke no laws. He ain't had no kind of smear campaigns on him. None of that. His brother did his career, lived his life, and he's taking care of his kids. Running his business. His business. But now y'all want to get in defense mode because he finally speak up for himself. That's the problem we have. As soon as some of us make it and get around certain people in these corporations, y'all forget where you come from and you turn your back on those that was helping you get there. We need to change this type of shit, bro. I just wanted to speak on it, man, to let you know, Kwame Brown, you got some support out here, brother. Keep standing up for yourself. And keep your foot on their neck, man. Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, Stephen A. Smith, Jamila Hill, all y'all bogus. Cause that brother wasn't no bust. And he definitely wasn't no failure, man. I'm rocking with you, Kwame Brown. Yeah. Chi-Town's finest. And we out.